Okay, let's go through it again.
Get out.
I know, but this is how you get better at it. Oh, hello there. Welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett. If this is your 100th time listening to the show, please collect your prize on the way out. If you've never listened to the show before, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you want to go back and dive into the back catalog after this episode, head over to nerdyphotographer.com/podcast, where you can find our most popular episodes as good places to start from. Depending on how far back you want to go into the archives, it's up to you. In addition to providing entertaining and informative photography-related info, I also go on adventures with the crew of the Starship Fibonacci. Right now, I'm helping a local security team run some drills. We're working on reassembling the safety matrix in the event of a major failure.
We've done this a dozen times already.
Yes, well, practice will make you better at it. Speaking of practice making you better, in this episode of the podcast, I talk with street photographer Ryan Faer, who brought his sports background to how he approaches improving as a photographer by training. All that after the break. Come on, guys, only 500 pieces left to go. Hey, photographers, imagine losing every photo, project, or document in a single crash. Scary, right? That's why there's Backblaze, the simple, reliable, and automatic way to back up your important data and photos to the cloud. Photographers, creatives, and everyday users, Backblaze protects what matters most with unlimited backup and easy recovery whenever you need it. I use Backblaze as part of my workflow to back up my most recent shoots until they're delivered to my clients, my most important business photos and documents as well, and all of my personal photos and videos. It's just $9 a month or $99 a year for unlimited data backup from one computer with 1 year version history and access to your data from anywhere. Crashes happen. With Backblaze, your files are safe, secure, and just a click away. Start your backup today at nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/Backblaze or click the link in the episode notes, because peace of mind is priceless. That's nerdyphotographer.com/Backblaze, because you never know when a crash is going to happen. Hey photographers, are you ready for a website glow up? Get supercharged with StyleCloud. StyleCloud offers beautifully designed, high-performing website templates built just for creatives like you. Whether you're showcasing weddings, portraits, or passion projects, you'll look as good online as your work does in print. Were you left high and dry and wondering what you were going to do with your Flow Themes website when the company shut down? No problem. StyleCloud makes migrating your Flow Themes site easy. Your content moves over, no stress, no mess. Plus, import your images directly from your PicTime galleries. No downloading, no re-uploading, just seamless integration and stunning design. Visit nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/StyleCloud or visit the link in the episode notes. Save 15% when you use code NerdyPhoto15 at checkout. That's nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/StyleCloud and use code NerdyPhoto15. StyleCloud isn't just a template, it's a launchpad for your brand. Get started today. Hello and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host. Oh, shit. Before I get into that, how do I pronounce your last name?
Fair, just like fair ball.
Okay.
Yep.
Just as someone who's had their last name just destroyed numerous times, just want to make sure that I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yep, appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett, and I'm here today with photographer Ryan Faer. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Casey, thanks so much for having me. Super excited to sit down and chat with you today.
I'm excited to have you on. And before we get started, we're going to roll the dice breaker. It's a 7. If you could be friends with any fictional character, who would it be?
Oh, man, that's good. Friends. So this is immediately what comes to mind. So I don't know if this is what you were thinking, but I just finished watching Severance, the second season last night.
Don't spoil anything for me. I haven't started the second season.
I won't, but the concept of having an innie and an outie is wild to me. So I'd love to talk to my innie and get to know them if I was to have one.
Since when we're recording this, Val Kilmer has just passed away. Um, I was rewatched Real Genius yesterday, and I would say Chris Knight is definitely somebody I would like to be friends with because that he has a moral compass. He's extremely intelligent, but also like knows how to. I'm like, this is the kind of person you want, and he cares about his friends. So I was like, that. I think that would be my answer right now, as for the moment. Ryan, for those of us who are, for our listeners who are unaware of your photography journey and also your background, could you give a little bit of background on how you got into photography?
Yeah, for sure. So my photography background is much shorter than probably the rest of my career. So I'll just start with what I do by trade every single day, but I'll be brief because I know that's not what folks are here for. So I'm a sports scientist for the Cleveland Guardians baseball organization. I've worked for Cleveland for the last 8 years now, going on season 9. My background is actually in strength and conditioning, so working with athletes in the weight room, and I've basically been in professional baseball for probably the last 11 or no, shoot, 12 or 13 years and been coaching for about 15. So I transitioned to sports science a few years ago. And essentially my day-to-day revolves around being in the weight room still, just like when I was a strength coach. But if anyone's ever seen Moneyball, there's all that data, right? So we as sports scientists handle a lot of that kind of data, but on the physical side. So from training, sleep, nutrition, hydration. So spend a lot of time doing that, throughout the day. And that takes up the bulk of my time. And so photographically, though, it was about probably getting close to 2 years ago. I picked up a camera essentially for the first time. I dabbled, if you can call it that, in it probably 11 or 12 years ago now when I first got into professional baseball. My work had taken up so much of my life. I was just looking for an outlet away from the field. So I tried a couple of things. Like I bought an Xbox and then I never played it. I bought a PlayStation and then I never played it. Then I bought a camera. I bought a Canon. Can't tell you what it was. It wasn't a very expensive camera, but it was a digital Canon. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do photography. That feels more productive than video games. I'm a very high strung person when it comes to just like always need to be doing something that's challenging. So that it felt like it fit for me. But I was so early in my career, I was probably 22 years old, that the camera basically just sat there in the box, more or less. I took it out a little bit, but I always felt like if I wasn't studying for my actual craft and my profession, that I was doing something wrong. So I rarely touched it. And I ended up selling it just like the PlayStation and the Xbox. So you go forward about, 10, 12 years, about 2 years ago, I saw a camera, and at the time didn't know what it was, but one of our players who was here for spring training in Arizona, where I'm based, had left his car in our, at our complex when he went off to play for his minor league team in the Ohio area. And there was a camera sitting on the dashboard, and it gets really hot here in Phoenix. So it was the middle of the summer, and every day I would park next to this player's car and I would just see this camera baking on the dashboard. And I just remember thinking, what a shame. Like I wish I could use that camera, And so I went on OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace and got a Fujifilm X-T30 Mark II, and that's where it started. And so 2 years later, it's a really big part of my life and balancing, because I spend so much time entrenched in my actual profession that it's really nice to have an outlet away from that, which is me being able to pick up the camera and walk the streets and invest in a creative endeavor.
Out of curiosity, are you using cameras in sports science? Are you like that's the immediately thought of as you were talking about it? Like, are you breaking down motion, range of motion, like various whatever activities you're having players do, and recording that and breaking that down using a camera of some kind?
Yeah, it's actually a really awesome question. That we do. It's not so if when you work in professional baseball specifically, what you'll notice is, because even though they're billion-dollar organizations, there still is a finite amount of money. So
Right.
each team can't really invest in every single type of technology or aspect to spend their time focusing on. So some teams do biomechanics really well, some capture workload really well, others use force plates really well. So we use cameras, but never giving it the type of thought that like you and I would be thinking about cameras. And actually, recently we were using iPhone cameras to record things, And this, my little bit of knowledge about cameras more than my peers, because they just don't do photography, helped a little bit because we were talking about the difference in focal lengths with like an iPhone 13 versus an iPhone 16, and like, hey, if we're doing a 2 camera setup, we need to make sure we actually do our best to match the focal length. So
Right.
it doesn't come up as often and as deep as we would, I would love to talk about cameras at work, but it actually is something that comes into play.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like, you have to kind of, if you're, especially if you're breaking down like things in like super slow motion, just knowing how much light you need is completely different than if you're just like taking a snapshot. Like that's something that the most people wouldn't consider. So that brings me to another question. So, as you were picking up the camera again, first of all, I would have like gotten in touch with that player and been like, "Hey, your camera's sitting on the dash of your car. Do you want us to do anything about it? Can I have it?" Um, are there any parallels between the way that you approach training athletes and how you approach developing your skills as a photographer?
Yeah, definitely. I would say like my career has had the biggest influence on how I approach my photography. So when I try not to get super long winded, but when I first started coaching, I was 18. So I wanted to play professional baseball. And when I got to the end of my high school days, I just knew that wasn't there for me. So at that point, I didn't even want to play college baseball because it wasn't going to be at a very high level. I said, okay, I'm done here, but I'm going to move into coaching now. And even though I need to go to school for this, I'm going to volunteer as a coach at my local high school, try to get internships at colleges all throughout my undergrad. And I'm going to essentially fake it until I make it, but build all this experience while I'm going to school to officially become a strength coach and eventually a sports scientist. And with that, as going now ahead to like photography, I picked up a camera and I'm a very ambitious person. I set very high goals for myself because that's just what keeps me motivated. And just like, 18-year-old me wanted to be where I'm at now and actually, further along, but I'll keep working at it. 31-year-old me who picked up the camera a few years ago has very lofty ambitions and still does. So for me, a lot of it was taking the same approach I took as an 18 to 22-year-old and early in my career, where I said, okay, I'm not where I want to be now, but I'm going to work every single day to get there. And it may not be perfect. Like I may not have access to the things that I want to have. Like, for example, because of my career, I can't go out on the street and shoot every day. I'm lucky if I get 1 to 2 hours a week to shoot, especially because I have a dog and I'm a single dog dad. So it's like work 50, 60, 70 hours a week, take care of the dog, and then sneak out if I can for a little bit of extra time for me. But it goes to what kinds of things can I be doing in all the other time where I'm not shooting, but I have some free time to get better at this. And so back in the day, 10 years ago, I'd be reading journal articles or textbooks, or I would be on social media networking with other strength coaches just to try to make connections. I take the similar approach to photography. So I study photographs and photographers, and I do it in a very probably some would think of like of an obsessive way, in the sense of like I'm very organized. I open a photo book and I go through each and every photo in that photo book, and I take notes on each photo. So it might take me 2 months to go through, like, for example, I'm getting close to done with Gary Winogrand's Color, and it's taken me a couple months, but I look through 4 or 5 photographs mostly every day, really early in the morning, because what else would I be doing during this time? Maybe sleeping, but I choose to do this. And I look at, this is why I love photography too, is it's not just about taking the photograph, at least for me. Every night I'm editing a couple photos and I'm getting them ready to share on social media. So it's for that purpose, but it's also just reps of looking at my photographs, curating my photographs to post, editing them. So I take that approach, and that way I feel like I'm getting reps every single day, just like, again, back in the day where I was a volunteer coach, not officially a coach, but I was getting the reps.
I like, as a former athlete, this is it's just it, and a scientist, with a scientific background. This listening to you describe it that way is really interesting for me. Um, like almost the sitting down and analyzing photos. This is something I tell people whenever they're like, "Oh, how do I learn?" Like, well, there are books out there. There are things that, and one of the things you also mentioned that was in another recent interview that I did is the approach of like he said, like I was starting out volunteering as a coach, and like I just did an interview where we were talking about someone who's just like, I'm going to be an assistant. I'm going to be somebody's assistant. I'm going to absorb as much as I can. I'm going to get paid to do the thing and also learn the thing. Like I am learning all of this stuff just from watching other people, reading books, the breakdown of going through a photo book and like breaking down like the photos, something that I used to do all the time, because I would sit there and like now I think I feel like I now the more that I understand light, yeah, I've been doing this for 20 something years, and we're looking at it like I have a better understanding now where I don't feel like I have to
Mhm.
like really like write it down, but I like looking at stuff and going like, okay, I get this, and like I understand what's going on. So I feel like all those reps before of doing that and like really doing a breakdown of an image. And if somebody asked me to, yeah, I could like look at that and go like, oh, well, this is where the key light is, and this is where like or whatever. Like this is a very soft light or like the harsh light or whatever um, the case may be. But like being able to analyze it that way, how much that improves your understanding of what you're going to do when you decide to go out and make your own photos. And it's something that I think that again, a popular topic on this show. I don't know if it's because of me or because a lot of people who ask for like they want the recipe. They just want settings. They want like camera settings, and they think that that's what's going to get them to what they want to do, but they don't understand that the situation surrounding the photo that they are trying to make can be so many different things to understand. It's like, I mean, this is something that I guess would like also translate to sports, in that you can't take the same approach to hitting a curveball that you take to hitting a fastball. It's just a different situation, and you have to be able to read the situation. I mean, there's a reason people say throwing you a curveball, but it's you have to understand how to adapt to different situations.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, to that latter point, so when I first started with the camera, right, and I went through like most probably do, like I went through camera after camera trying to find what clicked. And so at one point I had the XT30 Mark II, and then I had the XT5 because I wanted the best version basically of that camera. But then I wanted something portable, so I got the Ricoh GR3. And then I wanted the best of both worlds, so I got the X106, and now I have a Leica Q2 monochrome. And other than maybe getting like an M eventually, or having like an older M to try to learn that, I'm really content with the tool I have now and have no desire to change. But digressing into gear, what I wanted it for so long was to have something I could take with me everywhere. And so I just wanted these photographic reps, and I needed that to learn how to operate the camera, like you mentioned, work with light, knowing what times of day are really good for photos, which are not good. If you're gonna be out there in harsh light, like how can I make that work for me? So I needed that. But now I'm at a place where I don't want to bring the camera out for art purposes unless I'm intentionally making art. So like the camera doesn't go with me everywhere. It only goes if I think I'm going to be able to get downtown that day to take photos. I document stuff around my house because I love taking photos, but it's more just like of my dog and things like that and my family. So for me to get these reps, I have to be, I feel like, understanding how other photographers are doing it, especially ones that I really look up to. And I make no, bones about it. Like Phil Penman is a huge influence on my work and is what really brought me into street photography, because his fine art street photography just resonated with me. There's this clash of, one, I love black and white, but there's this clash of like surreal and like hyperrealism. There's this clash of abstract, but also he can drop in a beautiful street portrait. It's everything that I would want to aspire to. And the things he's accomplished in his career photographically are incredible. So that's the type of art that I want to produce. So I spent a lot of time studying his work. And I actually, his first photo book, Street, I have being delivered a day or two from now. I've already gone through New York Street Diaries, but you'll probably see a lot of that influence in my work. But what I've also found is I'm not trying to emulate one specific person. And especially like Phil, like so much of what makes his photos incredible from New York specifically are the elements that he goes out and shoots in. I
Yeah,
mean, the snow and the rain and his ability to do that's incredible. And we don't get that in Phoenix. And even if we did, I don't know if I could capture it the way he does, but we don't get that. So
you
I
have
need to
different
be able to
things.
look at his work and apply it. But then I look at Alan Schaller's work, who black and white, fine art, but also very abstract. And I've had a little bit of influence from that. And then I would say like one that's really resonated with me as nothing like them is Mary Ellen Mark, but just her really raw, portraiture work and how not everything's always perfect, but it captures what's actually happening in the moment. So I don't know, I could go down this rabbit hole of all these different artists, but the idea is just sitting down and being able to look at the work and find a way to get a rep from that so that when I go out into the street, I can hopefully use the surroundings that are different and apply some of their approach that from how I see it.
I think you take from any artist who you find influences you whose work you enjoy, like flavors your particular thing. I've had the pleasure of having Phil on the show. I don't know if you've listened to that episode, but he like one of the things he talks about again, Phil's like into your uh, need to document and like write down the reps is his tracking of the light and writing down locations and like keeping a journal of hey, this time of year the light is good here in this spot, so that's when I'm going to go back there, and those sorts of things. And his like field journaling is something that I think that there's a lot of people who don't realize it. Like, how do you consistently get these good? Well, it's like he said, the elements. Oh, it's a rainy, foggy day. He knows he's going to have like steam pipes on X, Y, Z streets, so that's where he's going to spend his time. And so like knowing those things beforehand, like going out and taking the time to research that, and not just I'm going to walk around and I'm hopefully going to find something. One thing I will say in our conversation here is that for me, something that has helped, and this is just some thoughts for you, because I know you're saying it's the really trying to carve out the time to take photos. Something that, and I bring it up a lot again, is taking pictures while I'm out with my dog, because I'm a dog dad as well, and it's like I spend a lot of time taking the dog for walks or going hiking with my dog, and taking photos while I'm out there gives me a much more like it's even if I'm only taking a couple of shots while I'm on a hike, and we might be out there for an hour and a half or however long, and that sort of regularly knowing I'm going to take my camera, I'm going to have that with me. I'm only taking one lens with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not giving myself a lot of options, but knowing that I have those opportunities during the week regularly where I don't have to fight with anything else. But if I see something, I can take that image. I can capture that image because I did bring my camera with me. So that's something to think about. I understand the process you're setting up for yourself.
Well, I think that's great advice. And ironically, I used to do that a lot. Again, it's just like taking my camera everywhere with me. And then when I first started in street, especially, I've spent quite a bit of time back home where my family's from in Florida, where I'll go home in the off season for 2 months and live with mom and dad for a little bit, because how long can we get to do, will I get to do that in my life? So I'll drive across the country with a dog from Phoenix to Florida, and I'll spend time with them. And they have some smaller downtowns around with them. So I'll take the dog and I'll have the camera. And early on, it was more of a crutch to like, well, people look at the dog and then I take their picture. But then it became like you're saying, like getting the reps. And I do think additionally, like I like my approach of being more fine art, but I also feel like one day I want to be able to take meaningful photos. Not to say that fine art photos aren't, but something that's either culturally meaningful or, just has something a little bit deeper, some emotion to it. And what I found is people who are out there documenting versus creating art, like that seems to come out more to me. So my dog, I love the hell out of my dog. She just had surgery the other day, and it was really scary because I didn't expect her at this age to have a cancerous mass. She's not even 3, but everything looks like it's going to be just fine. But it just reaffirms like taking the camera with me when I'm with her or around the house when I'm with her, and not striving to get things perfect. So I have this beautiful artistic photo, but getting an emotional photo in my style still of her and the things around us in our lives to document that, I think is something that I do want to really push for. Because I look at some of these, I may never be a full-time photographer because I love my career. I don't want to give it up, but the thought of doing commissioned or project work across the country or overseas where you're actually going to a community and there's a reason behind it, and you're getting something meaningful, like culturally relevant, like that's super enticing to me, something I would love to be able to do one day. But in the meantime, it's how do I create my work, but also, like you're saying, work on getting those reps elsewise.
Yeah, and it's something that I don't know. Maybe it's me personally, and I'm not trying to say that anybody else, anyone listening, or that you have to do this. I find that having the camera with me and knowing that I'm going to, this is something that's helped me avoid burnout in a way, and maybe this was being a professional photographer and doing it, as a job, that that knowing that I will have the opportunity to create something should I don't feel forced
Hmm.
to do it, but should something arise, because there were times when I would be out hiking with my dog and the light, just like there's suddenly, it's like it's kind of foggy and there's just beautiful sunrise coming through the trees, and it's there's this magical you know forest moment or whatever, and I'm like, man, I really wish I had my camera on me right now. And it's the I don't feel bad if I don't get a shot when I come back, but I feel good that, and I don't, even if I get a shot that I'm like, I don't, it's not the best, but it's knowing that if the opportunity presents itself in those times, that I can get the photo.
Yeah, no, and that's I think such a great and healthy approach too. I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the big things that's resonated with me, and I think why photography stuck, is my hobby outside of work was essentially work. So I would mountain bike, trail run, and lift weights, and that's all I did. Sometimes a couple times a day, and I'd collect my own data and I'd build dashboards off of it. And the limiting factor for me was essentially burnout. One, from two directions. One, like this outlet for me that was supposed to be my outlet away from work, this thing that was helping me through all the things in life, was me physically beating myself up, on a bike or lifting, and that takes its toll over a couple decades. And two, there was a ceiling to it where this investment was, I was never going to be a professional athlete, like genetically, and just where I'm at in my life, like those days are done. So picking up a camera, the one, again, there's, to what you're talking about, you can decide whether or not to capture a photo if you bring your photo or your camera with you everywhere you go. But also for me, if I'm exhausted at the end of a long work week and I don't feel like driving 30 minutes into downtown Phoenix, I can still be a photographer by sitting on my couch and looking at a photo book, editing photos, organizing my photos. We started a podcast, so like being able to do those things makes me feel like I'm still a photographer. Where like the day I didn't go out on a mountain bike, I questioned my identity of, am I still a mountain biker? So this has been so relieving in that sense as well.
Well, it just lifts the weight off your shoulders. And I think that even for professional photographers, it's something that we deal with, just okay, well, now I got to get paid and I got to do like, there's a times when I don't want to bring my camera with me because I'm like, this makes it work. This just makes like, it becomes a work thing. And, where people will say like, hey, can you bring your camera to the party? And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, and just don't feel like it, because I want to be there and I want to be part of that moment. But I understand what you're saying. It's can I'm going to find the ways in which I can experience this thing that I have a passion for, even if I can't do the thing that everybody else might associate with this activity.
Yeah, and my whole life, if you could sum it up in a few sentences, is like trying to balance out this like overachiever type mindset of just trying to conquer everything I touch and investing probably way much too much time into it and trying to prove something to myself. Balancing that with like having a life, being less high strung, enjoying myself, enjoying my life. So again, picking up the camera, at least for now, a couple years in, has been such a weight off my shoulders because I'm finally past that point. Or like I told you earlier in my career, I bought a camera and like I was every time I touched it, I felt guilty because I wasn't doing something for work. I'm finally at a place where I'm like, I'm really comfortable with like whatever hours I put in at work or at home for work. I'm gonna do the best damn job I possibly can. And then when I push that aside and I pick up the camera, I'm doing that for me. And I still take that mentality, like I'm gonna do the best job I possibly can, but at the same time it's separate from work. So now it's I can start to have balance, and it's taken me so long just to even get to this point, so it's been very liberating.
Yeah, it's I can identify with that as being a photographer professionally. Again, it's that the I used to feel like if I didn't take my camera with me, I was somehow like not being a photographer. And like friends who were hobbyists or whatever would not understand, like just the emotional and mental baggage that sometimes comes with that, and having to rediscover the reasons you get into it. Like you were saying, this is a passion, and much like sports and science, you something you're very passionate about, and then sometimes you do it too much. You overwhelm yourself, and finding those ways to take the foot off the gas. Because I think that one of the better mental health lessons I've learned is you can't give 100% all the time. Like
Yep.
your body just can't do it. Your mind can't do it. Like 100% is maximum capacity. And we like to say you need to give 110% like that. Like it's a cliche or whatever, but like to understand that you can't do that constantly. Otherwise you break down. You have, and I've certainly dealt with like the mental health repercussions of that. Um, you have been open about dealing with anxiety, depression. Um, in what way has like getting into photography helped you deal with those aspects of your life?
Yeah, a big piece with stuff that we've already touched on, just being able to have an outlet or something with that isn't, that doesn't have to do with my career, because there's been years like I've had a nice progression through my career, but there's been times where I've had some lulls where things didn't feel like they were going my way. So to be able to separate my identity from being a sports scientist, from working in professional baseball, all of those things has balanced me, has helped me fill up my cup when sometimes it didn't feel like I could fill it from work alone. So that's a big piece of it. Also, just having a creative outlet. I've never had anything like this before. I can't sing. I can't draw. All the stuff, I like to write, but I have a hard time starting. So the camera, being able to pick something up and capture a moment, not create something, has unlocked this creative world to me that I didn't really know existed, and how much it would help me. So a lot of how I approach a photo, edit a photo, post a set, I'm trying. I think it was John Sarkovsky talked about, he wrote a little piece with some photographs that went in the Museum of Modern Art, where he talks about like a window versus a window versus a mirror being the camera in the photograph. Are you seeing the world? Are you showing the world? Or are you seeing yourself in the photograph? And for me, a lot of it, a big piece of it is I'm showing folks the world as I see it. And so it's an outlet for me in that regard, as opposed to like writing or doing something else to try to handle the mental health side of my life and depression and anxiety. I'm in the best place I've ever been in my life, even without the camera, because I've taken the steps over the last 10 plus years to get to where I am now, with my mental health. But the camera is just additive. It's supported that and helped sustain the progress I've made.
Do you think that, okay, this is something that I've noticed in myself, and do you think that the issues that you deal with, I've noticed that my anxiety, I have both anxiety and depression, have influenced things that I choose to photograph. Like even though it's like you're saying, is it a mirror or a window? Are you is the window colored by your own experience? That's something that I've noticed. There are times when it's been both, like not any particular image, but there have been times where it's a reflection of me in that photo. But then there are other times how I see the world, how I'm showing the world. It's not necessarily a reflection, but it is colored. It is a filter on the image of like my cynicism or my tiredness or my like how I struggle to deal with a particular issue is shaping that image, not necessarily like looking back at myself.
Yeah, 100%. I think how I feel and my lived experiences are definitely creating a filter for how I'm portraying the world, if that makes sense. So I love black and white. I would say if you look at my images, they're super contrasty. So I don't like a flat image. I like lots of deep blacks. I've gotten away from going super bright whites. I've tried to lean more into grays, but there are times where I push the whites as well. And in my mind, you have this contrast of good and bad, love and loneliness, these things that my life, not to get super deep here and existential, but I've had so much good in my life, so much great. I have a career that I've built it was basically what I envisioned for myself. I have a great family that has supported me. I've never wanted for much. I'm very privileged and lucky. At the same time, I've still dealt with these things that I feel like they were for a lot of times out of my control. I've dealt with depression and waking up feeling empty and can't explain why. I've had some very hard time coping and have gone to some poor coping strategies. I've felt trapped by my career and all the good that's around me. So I feel like I have a really strong contrast in my life. And I think I paint that out onto the images that I take in the world that I see. And so with that, like my ethos is to go out and try to capture life at the intersection of beauty and struggle, because I do feel like all the struggle I've gone through has helped me get to where I am, because I don't know that I would have pushed myself in my career as hard as I did or push myself in photography right now if there wasn't something I was trying to prove to myself. I feel like the depression has fueled me. I've tried to overcome something and it's been a chip on my shoulder, and I've used these avenues, whether it be work or fitness or the camera now, as a way to try to not prove something to others, but prove worth and value to myself. And I found I've come to peace with who I am as a person, and that is what has really helped me. I stopped chasing happiness and just looked for peace. But I'm still trying to prove something. I'm still trying to live a life that is meaningful and can leave something behind. But I take so much of both the good and the bad that I've had in my life and have tried to put that into the images or the sets that I put together with the camera. So high contrast, and I've done like last year, did a photo walk in Scottsdale with some friends. And if you know the Phoenix area, like Scottsdale's got a lot of money and things are pretty clean. And it's just very like sterile and it's beautiful, but that wasn't my style of photography. And I spent 2 months in Florida this past off season, and it was rural, and, it had a little bit more character, but I find that what really resonates with me is walking the streets of a downtown where you see people going out having a good time. You see business folks in great attire, but then you look down the alley and you see grit and grime, and you see some people on the streets that have really fallen on hard times. And it's not to exploit them, but to capture life how it actually is out on the street and maybe make something meaningful from that.
I totally get that. I think that one of the things that, and I've had a lot of discussions about this from a mental health perspective, is how photography can bring us to the present moment and understanding like what's going on in life and being able to turn off the voices in your head that might try to trick you into thinking that something else is happening, and like you will, whereas we're our own worst critics or whatever the case may be, but like being able to look through the viewfinder and hone in on the moment that you're in and accept that, and that you can't change it, and but like you said, documenting what's happening as life as it really is I think that that moment in your head when you can accept life as it really is and not how you sort of like get it. If you get into your head too much, this is something that I've dealt with, is an anxiety and depression, uh the person who deals with that, um that there are so many times where I've like made up a scenario, and instead of just let's look at what's really actually here. And that can happen with subjects, that can happen with like whatever you're photographing, and being open to the real world and documenting it is uh, super important. I have a question though, like, do you find there's any sort of like, I don't know, not friction is not maybe not the word, but do you find that the sense of calm that you get from photography ever butts up against your sort of scientific background, like the way approach to things, to bettering yourself as a photographer?
Well, I think one thing that I there's like a thread between the two that helps ease that friction um, is the fact that like so sports science is very science based, but there's the cliche, there's the art, and there's the science. Like it feels like most of the time, like it's probably like 60 to 70% is the art, and a lot of the art is your interactions with people. So it's like social dynamics, and our job ultimately as practitioners in that space is to influence behavior. And it's hard to do that with just numbers or with just science. You have to be able to connect with people. And it's also a big reason why most of us get into it. I don't want to speak for everybody, but a lot of us, it's about the people around us. So I do everything because I love the heck out of our athletes, especially the longer that I've been here and watching guys literally grow up from 17-year-olds to almost 30-year-olds and to reach their dreams. And also for our staff, I love going to work with our staff every day. So what I found in photography is that I try to like I'm not I will shoot off the hip sometimes, but I let people see the camera and they can make a decision on whether they want to engage, walk around, give me a look, and then I have to then use social engineering to figure out, do I still want to take the shot? Do I risk it here? Do I talk to them? Is this a good moment for a street portrait? That's something in the last 6 to 8 months I've really been working on, a street portraiture. So being able to just connect with people and then also like fellowship with fellow photographers, which can be challenging for me because I have a problem of comparing myself to other people. And so surrounding myself with other photographers, social media, stuff like that can be challenging. But finding value in like, I used to just want to go out and take photos on the street with headphones in and just be by myself. And now most days, not only do I never use headphones, like I just want to be in the moment with people on the street, and but I'm also inviting other folks to come out with me or trying to catch other people while I'm out. So there are definitely times where like the two things are very conflicting. Especially at the capacity that I'm trying to do them both at. I'm trying to do both things at a very high level. But if I keep the common thread of like just keeping the humanity in it and the enjoyment in it and fellowship with others, it eases that for sure.
Yeah, I think that having a community of like-minded folks in photography or whatever the case may be, um, can really help you not feel alone. I mean, I mean, for lack of a better word, it's like having that there like, is not, you're not left to your own devices so much. And you can understand that, everybody goes through different challenges, and that can help you feel like, okay, I handle this in my way. I approach it in my way. There's nothing, nobody's way of approaching is like inherently better than another. But having those people that you can fall back on, and have a discussion with, or just talk about your work, or talk about like whatever's going on, makes all of the smooths over that friction that you might feel in whatever area of your, you know pursuit of your craft, whatever it is. It helps you, it lubricates it all, like makes it all run a little bit smoother, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's when there's times where I focused way too much on my progression in my career and where I think I should be. Um, that's when I've been my least happy, because most of the time we're not all advancing at the speed that we want to advance. But when I've, like right now, where I'm very much entrenched in just doing my job really, really well and enjoying my time with the people around me, and like learning as I'm going, is when I'm the most content and at peace. And I feel like, thankfully, most days with photography, that's also where I'm at, which is like, I know I have a long way to get to where I want to go. Thankfully, with photography, there's no timeline. If I get there in 40 years, that's a-okay with me. But I focus on enjoying my time. I focus on learning and just doing the best job that I possibly can. And that takes so much of the pressure off. And if anything, with the photography, because there's no timeline, there's even less pressure than at work. So it's that's how I've found, if I can lean into that side of it, I'm a way happier person.
That's good. I mean, that is a great place to be. Um, so, to anybody else who is looking to get started in photography as sort of a, I mean, therapeutic, for lack of a better word, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I would. I mean, first of all, just start. Get the camera, get any camera, and go out and shoot. Learn about your camera, document things around you. I wouldn't, for me, like, just like when I started, like I saw, this isn't why I picked up the camera, but very quickly after picking up the camera, somehow YouTube led me to street photography. And my immediate thought is, I want to do that, but I could never do that for a lot of reasons. And it, I just kept taking photos, and I took the camera more places with me. And then I pointed it at a person for the first time. Like, and then it just evolved. But the whole way I was focused on enjoying the time. And that is how it latched on as a therapeutic aid for me and as an outlet for me, as opposed to, oh, I really want to do this thing and I'm going to do everything I can to do this thing. And then once get deterred for the first time. I remember when I started lifting weights and like wanted to be a strength coach when I was 18 years old, I stopped going to an LA Fitness that I was going to because I just compared myself to other people. And it really put me in a bad spot. And so I started working out at the high school that I was coaching at, and it all ended up okay. But I should have had the mindset, I think, at the time of like, who cares what they're doing? I'm doing this for me. Lifting weights makes me feel better. When I leave today, I'm going to be in a better place. So forget what they're doing. That's the approach I think I took with the camera this go around, was I'm doing this for me. And then even the last piece of it is like, I'm sure people at my work thought it was really strange that all of a sudden I was posting photos, because I had a pretty good following for coaching and sports science. And I just said, I don't care. I'm not posting it to get a following. I'm posting it because I just want to share my work. I don't have anywhere to print. Well, I didn't have anywhere to print all those things. So again, it was just throw the expectations away is probably the best way to say that. Everything I just said, very long-winded. Throw the expectations away and just shoot with your camera, and then find what you really enjoy and dive into that part of it.
Well, I think that's really great advice, because I think that, again, I've gone through that comparison thing so many times in my career over the years, where like I find it creeping back in, and it has become easier and easier to sort of push it aside, because I'll find myself thinking like, oh man, there's a difference between thinking that yeah, that I am somehow failing or I am somehow behind someone else when I see their work, and the like, ah, man, I wish I had done that shoot. Like it's like that, or I got to go there. I gotta go. Like I want to go there and like put my stamp on a photo of like in a similar location or whatever, and that sort of thing. That instead of going, I'm jealous of that person, or I am not living up to what that person has done, or whatever, those sorts of comparisons. The understanding that you are your own person and artist and creative personality, that you you go on your own journey and everybody else goes on theirs, and that you can be happy for someone else that they were able to get that shot, and also go, hey, you know what? I think I can take a pretty good picture like that. I'm going to find some way to do it with what I do, and use it to inspire yourself in a way without comparing yourself to, or feeling that you failed somehow. Like there would be times when I would sit there and go like, I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing this for 20 years. Why have I not done that yet? And sort of like judging myself according to other people's accomplishments is, that's not, I don't have to worry about myself.
Yeah, and oh my goodness, take it from somebody, not you, but for those listening, take it from somebody that works in sport and has watched athletes and has wanted to be a professional athlete. Like I've another part of photography that I've loved is just art in general that it was missing in my life is there is no right or wrong. When you work in sports science, there's literally science to follow and there's data to support things. And there's also, because it is a little bit of a corporate world, like there's a right way to say things, there's a right process, there's a protocol, there's and then if you're an athlete, you have to be good enough, or eventually you will not be doing this still. Photography, as an amateur, as a hobbyist, there, in my opinion, there is no right or wrong. It's how you want to do it. Sure, people might critique your photos and say, hey, like, I wouldn't have done this. You don't have to care what they say, or you can listen and take it in. That's up to you. That's your prerogative. But there's no right or wrong. It's all about what you want to do. And I've also come to some people who like maybe you do want to be a professional photographer one day, but I think what's really awesome about photography again for me is like I love my day job. I love my career. I don't intend to give it up. I don't want to be a professional photographer, but I want to shoot photographs like a professional photographer. But so for those that aren't doing it professionally, I would also say like take more pressure off yourself. If it's not there to pay your bills, then you really don't have to do it a certain way.
Right.
Nobody has to like it.
Yeah. There's no, like, if you, and I've told people on many occasions, you don't have to turn this into a job. It's a, like, photography is also one of my hobbies. One of them. It's like, like I sometimes go out and it has nothing to do with work. It has nothing to do with selling the photo, but it's just like, this is something I'm doing that's completely separate from my work, and sort of like shutting all of that stuff off. And you don't have to, I think there's a lot of pressure on people like, oh, I got to monetize my hobby because I'm spending time on it and I need to make money at it. And it kind of ruins the point of being a hobby for some people. And some people like feel called to this as a passion, and you want to be, a professional photographer. I will do my absolute best to help you in that regard as well. But you don't necessarily need to feel the pressure immediately picking up the camera to be like, this is going to be my career. Um, Enjoy it, like you said, enjoy it. Like find the things that bring you joy about this, so that you can. That is what, even as a professional, if you do decide at some point to become a professional, the things that are going to separate you from other photographers, as even in your profession where people are going to hire you, is your take on things, like how you see the world, and you really have to enjoy your vision of things. Otherwise you just become a copy of everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I would say like I my social media now, my personal Instagram account is solely for photography. I'm at a point in my career, thankfully professionally, where I don't feel the pressure to go out and use it to leverage networking for work. And I just love being with the Guardians. So I'm not actively trying to market myself. So I use it for photography, and I have my website and started a podcast with some friends, and I print my photos and sell them online, and have sold all of like 3. But the point is, it's a means to an end for me, in the sense of I want to slowly just have this tide that lifts my work and gets it out into the world. So I have multiple ways of doing that, but I'm definitely not going to judge myself as a photographer by how many prints I sell this year. I'm not going to let social media followers and likes define me. Now, I do understand that, like, if you want your work out there, you got to game the algorithm. So, like, I'm trying a little with reels and doing the things, but ultimately, all those pieces aren't to judge myself and my work. They are just means to get my work out into the world and to help me get exposure. And again, no timeline with, as a hobbyist photographer, I don't have to worry about, man, if this reel doesn't reach 1,000 people, I may not get business. So again, if you're somebody who's just picking up the camera that wants to use it as an outlet and wants it to be a hobby and grow that way, it's such a relieving feeling when you are not judging yourself by the external things, but you're just judging it by how much you feel like you're growing as you're doing it, both like technically with your skills, but also your enjoyment of it.
Do you have your own website? Are you tired of dealing with slow loading pages and poor support from your current web hosting company? Consider switching to SiteGround, the top rated web hosting company that provides 24/7 support and super fast hosting speeds. SiteGround's platform is built on the premium Google Cloud infrastructure, ensuring top reliability, security, and speed for your website. Their fast network and storage provide optimal site speed and a high level of redundancy, so you can trust that your website will be up and running smoothly at all times. With SiteGround's ultra-fast server setup, your pages will load 30% faster on average, giving your visitors a better user experience and improving your website's SEO. And with hosting starting from just $1.99 per month, it's affordable for any budget. Plus, if you're not completely satisfied, SiteGround offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Don't suffer with a terrible web hosting company any longer. Make the switch to SiteGround and experience top-level support, super fast hosting, and a reliable, secure platform for your website. I spent years with a web hosting company that was absolutely terrible. My site was constantly getting hacked, and support was nearly impossible to get a hold of. Since switching to SiteGround, all of those problems are in the past. Just visit nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/SiteGround or click the link in the episode notes to get started and begin enjoying faster, more reliable web hosting today. Hey photographers, tired of spending hours culling, editing, and publishing your photos? Narrative does it all for you faster and smarter. With AI photo culling, you can quickly sort through thousands of images to find the best shots. With AI editing, you can customize edits to match your personal style effortlessly. And with publishing made simple, you can share stunning blogs with ease. Save time, stay creative, and let Narrative handle the heavy lifting. When you use the link in the episode notes to try Narrative, you get 10% off and an additional 200 credits for edits. What are you waiting for? Try Narrative today. Visit the link in the episode notes and get started for free.
Hey. And now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death.
Ryan, true or false? One of the greatest pitchers in Major League history used to run off the field during the game to chase fire trucks.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard that before. I gotta say false.
It's true. Rube Waddell was fascinated by fire trucks and firefighters. And if there was a fire truck that went by during a game, he would run off the field and chase the fire truck and go and help put out the fire. He was just like this guy has a very colorful history. He was also like one of the greatest strikeout pitchers ever. I highly recommend. There's a podcast called The Dollop. They have an amazing episode on the Rube. It's where the term being a Rube comes from, because he was just a country guy who came into town, and he would just very simple, like pleasures, and that was one of them. He would like the fact that he just like would stop playing and like run after a fire truck.
Rube Waddell, that's fascinating. I'll have to give that useless piece of information, as you called it, to my dad as well. He's a firefighter for 30 years. I'm sure he'd love to hear that one. I'll have to read and listen more on him.
Oh, he's fascinating. He's a fascinating character from history. Ryan, thank you so much for being on. Where can people find you? You mentioned your podcast as well. Like, let everybody know. Give them the info.
Yep. So on Instagram and Threads, I'm at Ryan RYAN_Faer FAER. I'm most active on both of those, and try to be a little more engaging on Threads because it's a good place for dialogue. Also on Blue Sky, have a website, ryanfairphoto.com. But anywhere you search my name, you'll probably find me. Just started a podcast with some other Phoenix street photographers out here in the area. We have about 4 or 5 episodes already. It's called Zoned Focus Podcast. So myself, Matthew Stella, and Ryan Curry get on there. It's more just like us hanging out, talking about photography and street photography. There's a range here, like Matt's highly seasoned. I'm only a year or two in. The other Ryan's a year or two in. So it's a lot of fun. Just check it out. But of course, I'm really appreciative for being able to come on your podcast today, Casey. This was really awesome.
Enjoyed having you on. And you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks so much.
Welcome back. I want to thank Ryan Faer for talking with me. You can find links to Ryan's work, his socials, and his podcast in the episode notes. While you're clicking on links, be sure to subscribe to this show. Leave us a review because they are the most impactful way for the show to attract new listeners apart from recommending us to your friends, which, you should also be doing. And be sure to follow along with the Nerdy Photographer on the social medias at The Nerdy Photo. That's at The Nerdy Photo on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, Reddit. You don't want to miss out on all the fun that takes place between the episodes. You're going to have some major FOMO because who doesn't need some fun these days?
Yeah, we finished the reassembly.
And the 12 of you working together still haven't beat my solo reassembly time. So let's do it again.
Oh, come on.
Until next time, everybody, keep practicing, stay safe, and stay nerdy.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.